to Garcia. Off the deflection. Los Fresnos comes back and wins. Now Santa Maria will put up a three. Bang! Santa Maria.
Here's Warner. Here comes a head of the jam. Counted for two. Field. Adios! And the Falcons win on a walk-off. And it's saved. What a game. What's this? Smack.
To the left. That is gone.
Lob for Perez. That's my play. Off the backboard. Count it. And a win.
And a win. Brian Perez wins the game for the Santa Rosa Warriors, and they go nuts.
All right, what's going on, RGV? We're getting set for our what could be our final show of the football season, as we are now in Week 10. The final week of the regular season is here. We're in the first week of November 3rd, in fact, and we are full steam ahead and getting set for the high school football playoffs. Another season has come and gone, and like I said, we are getting set for the playoffs. District titles still to be decided, playoff spots to still be decided in the final week. That's why every week matters, every game matters. Kevin Rauer here, joined by Ruben Rodriguez. Joe Bowling will be joining us in the next segment. So week 9 was a wild one across the RGV. I've been out of the mix just a little bit, but Ruben's going to fill us in on what exactly went down in week 9.
So we got the Thursday scores going on here. Thursday night, we saw PSG take down Edinburgh Economy 68-3. San Benito knocks off Brownsville out of the state in the playoff race, 50-0. Mission Veterans defeats Sierra Pioneer 35-0. McCallum Memorial defeats Bronzeville Porter 38-21. And Edinburgh Vela defeats Mission 35-7. Friday, we had Mac High defeat Bronzeville Lopez 65-7. Harlingen defeats Donna North 51-9. Lafayette defeats Fidalgo 34-28 to capture district title in 16-4A Division I. Bronzeville Veterans defeats Donna 28-7. St. Joseph's knocks off Austin High Park 61-26. RGC knocks off Laredo Martin 41-0. Shareland defeats Valley View 46-0. Ingleside defeats Raymondville 21-6. Taft defeats Monte Alto 46-0. Bishop defeats Progreso 57-0. Sinton defeats Rio Hondo 56-14. La Villa defeats Riviera Coffer 41-0. Skidmore Tinian defeats Santa Rosa 36-21. Port Isabel defeats Corpus Christi West Oso 42-28. Los Fresnos defeats Brownsville Hanna 32-13. McCown Nicky Road defeats Wesco East 21. Nicky Road wins that one. La Jolla defeats La Jolla Hardest Lincoln 16-8. Edinburgh North defeats PSG High 28-7. PSG Southwest defeats PSG Memorial 23-20. Ed Cal Joseph defeats Roma 34-13. Harlingen South defeats Wesco 28-14. And one more game to report. Pace knocks off Palmview on a Saturday night 41-21.
So I think, from the outside looking in last week when I was just looking at the scores, I think they won that 2 games that stood out was Edinburgh North, all of a sudden, little CCR, Credence Clearwater revival being the key word. All of a sudden, they get waxed by Vela. They lose to Mission. And then in a blink of an eye, they pick up 2 big wins. One against Edinburgh High, in which I didn't pick the Cougars to win that football game. I figured Edinburgh High would be enough with their rushing attack with Abrigo, who's the leading rusher in that district. They go out, they win that football game. They turn right around. They win another game against PSJ, who was coming in hot, and now put themselves back in the playoff race, in which 2 weeks ago, if I would have said Edinburgh North would have had a puncher's shot, people would have probably called me crazy. All of a sudden, the Cougars are still in the mix. Then the trap game that I thought was for Harlingen South, playing at home against Westlaco, and another team who has really started to find their form, a very young Westlaco team at Bogus. The key for South was that they ran for 299 yards. We can call it 300. So I thought that South, again, a gut check win for them. They've checked every box throughout the year. They've been dealing with some injuries, but you go back to non-district play when they went to the Sky Dome. They beat Alice on the road. It's like, okay, well, they won that ground and pound defensive physical game, check. They've won the shootouts. They won the Bird Bowl. They turn around and beat San Benito, and I know this is old news, but I'm filling into where I've been MIA, but they beat San Benito on the road, and then you get that trap game. You get that trap game because you're looking at Westlaco, a team who's coming in hot. Don't want to overlook them to what we're going to talk about later is their matchup with Los Fresnos. South winds up winning that 28-14, you said?
Yes, sir.
It was 21-14 for a long time until South finally came up. They made a stop defensively. They wound up getting a late touchdown, so the score wasn't as indicative. The final score wasn't as indicative as the way the game was shaping up to be. So I think South picking up that win, settling the nerves. Los Fresnos is coming in hot. They won 5 straight. I know they got a win this past week, but the big win for them was at double OT in Harlingen a couple of weeks ago. That set up this matchup right here as we go into the final week to determine the district title.
Yeah, that game, like, it was 2 weeks ago, right? It was Harlingen and Los Fresno. That game was just intense. I was doing my game. I was doing the Harlingen-South Rivera game that night, and I was keeping track with the scores. And then I was shocked when I saw it was 1 overtime. Then later on the broadcast, double overtime. And I was, like, keeping myself contained in the booth. And then to see Los Fresnos get a big win, especially against a team like Harlingen, to secure this game we're going to talk about more about on Friday, it's just crazy.
And then you go to 16-5A D2. The big one that was Mercedes and Mission Vets, and I got a little bit of grief. I think I was the only one on the picket line that picked Mission Vets. I was wrong, but I wasn't too far off. I know that game came down to the late red zone interception, but there's going to be a three-way. There's going to be a co-champions with Mission Vets, Sherryland, and Mercedes, and just the job that Coach Correll has done with Sherryland, being able to really turn that team around. They're so athletic. Having the Guerrero twins there, they can do a lot, offensively. He was on our show last week, in fact, in Edinburgh, and I'm sure he was able to dial up that just a little bit more. But Sherryland's a very dangerous team. Mercedes, obviously, they have Cincinnatus at quarterback, and offensively they can do a number. And Mission Vets, to me, they have to be the scariest team because we know what Mercedes can do. We've seen them. I feel that they've peaked. They've shown what they can do. They've been at the top of their game. Sherryland they're playing well, but I just think Mission Vets, when you get a guy like David Gilpin, and it's funny because in his pregame, he plays Doubt Me Now by Cody Johnson. I don't know if you've heard that song, but that song is so perfect for a guy like David Gilpin because you talk about feeding the monkey on your back, building that chip on your shoulder, and you keep doing that for a guy like to David Gilpin. Joe knows just as well as anybody, you never count him out or Ronadam out. That Mercedes loss could go back and look and say, the old Manny Gomez, you learn more in a loss than a win. I think that's going to help Mission Vets in the long run. They might not be the best team in that district on paper. They lost to Mercedes, right? But they could be the most dangerous because once they start getting clicking, they're a very dangerous team, and we know what they can do defensively. And at Calchelsa, they squeezed in. They wound up winning out. They went through the gauntlet, albeit they didn't beat Sherryland, they didn't beat Mercedes, they didn't beat Mission Vets, but they found a way to get in, and that's all that matters. 16-5A D1, Brownsville Veterans, how about that? We got, of course, 3 Brownsville schools. Brownsville Veterans, the only Brownsville team representing the 6 schools this year in the playoffs. We had Coach Kelly on earlier this year, and just the things I've seen he's done implementing that triple offense from a team that has run the spread over the last 5, 6, 7 years that David Cantu was there. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in and a lot to learn, but, kudos to BVM for one, making the playoffs, implementing that new system, and right now they're sitting as the 3rd seed.
Oh, yeah, Brownsville Veterans. That's a team that a lot of us didn't think we were going to punch their ticket in, but just Kelly has done an outstanding job here with that key trio of juniors, Mikhail, Sampaio, and Valdez, who continue to pave the way with what he calls the ground strike offense, something carried in from Eastern New Mexico, and it's just blowing away here. But he does have a challenge because he does have all three McAllen schools in the playoff mix, but to show him representing the lower Valley in 16-5 of Division I, it's just awesome.
And then you talk about dangerous teams. Port Isabel is a 4th seed. They were steamrolling everybody here in the RGV, albeit they lose to Sinton. They lose to the big dogs up there, Rockport. But this is a team that, like I said about Mission Vets, if there's someone that knows how to get his teams prepared for the playoffs, it's Coach Tony V. And how I saw them run that nasty slot to perfection, I can't imagine what it's going to look like in the playoffs. He's been there, he's done that, and PI could be a very dangerous team in the 4 seed. Just down the road in Taps, another dangerous team that could be in the 4 seed is St. Joe. They got back on track last week with a win against Hyde Park. They took it in the chin the last 3 weeks. The last time I was here, they lost horribly to Bernie Geneva, which I did not see coming. But, that week they were dealing with COVID protocols. They were dealing with kids being out, being sick, and it was just a messy week for St. Joe. Not having JP Vilauti really, really hurt them. They didn't have Adrian Del Pozo that week, so it was a very, very limited what St. Joe can do. They lose to the Regents. They lose to St. Anthony's, which was expected. Those are really tough teams. The Regents probably will win state again this year. They get the win against Hyde Park, and then now they win Friday against JP2. They're in. And by then, Coach Tino Villarreal is hoping that they can be healthy and clicking, and they can use these last 2 weeks to generate some momentum, get healthy, and go in and maybe look to win a playoff game for the second straight year.
Oh, yeah. St. Joe's one of those teams that you just can't turn your back on for 1 second. Like what you said, once they start get clicking, when they get the puzzle pieces back together, I feel like they're going to be a dangerous threat in the playoffs.
Yeah, real quick, shout out to Evan Avila, the sophomore linebacker who was a transfer, not from the Valley. The kid had to go in and play running back a few weeks ago when Vidauti was out. He only had 5 carries going into that game against Bernie Geneva 3 weeks ago. But if you see the kid play linebacker, you know he's a football player. So there's just a quick plug there for that young sophomore. But that's pretty much where we're at with the playoffs. And I love it because, week 1 doesn't matter, week 2 doesn't matter. No, it does, because we're still in the final week of the season, and district titles are still to be decided in 32-6A. Vela won it outright in 31-6A. And then we have the three-way, the tri-champs with the Vets, Sherland, and Mercedes. And then McCallum Memorial ran away with that district. But, it's a lot of fun, and we're excited for the final week.
Oh, yeah, this is what every team has been leading up to. Like you said, week 1 doesn't count, week 2 doesn't count. It actually does count because those big games that you win in week 1 can guarantee your spot. Like Vela getting big wins early on in the season, including against Harlingen, a match we thought was going to be a shootout. Vela just proved them wrong, and now sitting the 31-6-8 champs. And now we got 2 more district champs here set to be decided, and it's just going to be exciting how everything plays out in week 11.
So when we come back, we're going to break down the playoff scenarios. Joe Boland's going to join us, and we're going to talk playoff football on the other side of the break. You're watching Real Sports Live.
Before or after the games and supporting athletes of all ages. When you're in Santa Rosa, be sure to stop by the concession stand and choose from the wide assortment of goodies. An advertising partner with Rio Sports Live is the concession stand. I love what I do. I really
love what
do.
I'm doing. I love children.
One of the most important things to do is to love your students.
Imagine teachers like these helping your child prepare to change the world. Take a closer look at Mission CISD.
Come visit our new store in downtown Harlingen. We have furniture, appliances, clothes, collectibles, and more. All funds collected support the Sunny Glen Children's Home. Come see us at Vintage on Jackson at First and Jackson in Harlingen.
We are back here at the Luke Freya Show. I'm joined by a couple of guys that have been running the show, so I'm kind of the guest here in the middle. But we want to take into this next segment as we get ready for the playoffs, and let's go ahead and go back to a couple of the discussions you were having. And first of all, the St. Joe Bloodhounds getting Del Pozo back was a huge difference maker in the way they looked. I was able to do that game, and so I got to see a much different looking football team, a much more positive but confident group when the offense was on the field, that we can get some things done. And they racked up a bunch of points, and we talked about coaches that get teams ready for playoff runs. Tino Villarreal is also one of those coaches that says, get me in the playoffs, and I'll figure out some things to do, because but they're on the right track for sure, Kevin. So St. Joe's got a big one against John Paul. We circled the beginning of the year, if you remember, that the John Paul St. Joe game was probably going to decide who was going to take the next step into the playoffs, and sure enough, here it is.
Right, victory loves preparation, right? One of my favorite quotes. And Tino, he'll be the first to tell you that he's grown a reputation in the RGV that if there's anyone that knows how to prepare, it's Tino. And that this is a reputation around the TAPS, and it's not in the Valley, it's throughout the state, because they play, Corpus schools, Austin schools, Dallas schools, and they all know that Tino knows how to prepare his teams. And going into this JP2 matchup, they're going to have Nick Jackson, they're going to have Evan Avila, they're going to have Luigi Cristiano, and then just having Del Pozo back was just huge, because he was limited earlier in the year, the Hebronville game, he only played a half, missed out, and then when he came back against Brentwood, that offense was different, and it just opens up everything that Coach Tino wants to do, and it's a shame that I wish Vidauti was playing, because when you have Vidauti and Del Pozo, mind you, both juniors, in on that offense, it's very scary to stop. And mind you, they also did lose Lucas Cristiano, the middle brother, the middle Cristiano, earlier in the year to a hip injury, so he's just a sophomore. Kind of getting ahead of myself on the future there, but no, they can be a very dangerous team, and defensively they're starting to figure things out just a little more, and Del Pozo's a two-way player. You saw that?
Yes.
He's a two-way player.
Well, I counted them up. They had just enough to go scrimmage one another. So everyone playing on that team had better be ready to be a two-way player because it's that time of year, and you get a couple of injuries and limited roster spots anyway. It's one of those things. But again, the confidence level is what I was most impressed with, was the fact that when the offense, and it was a shootout kind of game for a while this last week, but every time the offense got on the field, you had the sense that, and you could see that just the mannerisms, they expected to score points, and in most cases they did. Del Pozo was our player of the game, but it was because he was scoring touchdowns while running the ball, while receiving. He was just that athlete that coaches love, that like, hey, I need you to make a play, and he continued to do so. And this John Paul game, John Paul's been through the same situation. They've ran the same kind of gauntlet. They've won just the right games. They position themselves to also say, this is our chance to shine. And so I look for two very determined football teams. It's a playoff atmosphere. It is a playoff game. You lose, you're out. You win, you're in the playoffs. And so it's playoffs without being in the playoffs, if you can understand that.
Absolutely, and I think St. Joe has put themselves in the right position. Like we mentioned, the last 2 weeks, we knew that was coming, and I say we, I mean all of us at this table. Tino would tell you the same thing. There was no shame in that. But, looking ahead, a month ago, you can jot it down and say you win this one, you can drop these two, win out the last two, and that'll put you in the playoffs. And that's exactly where St. Joe is at.
And let's run down some other things, breaking down as you were going over some of those teams and where they're sitting as we're getting into this last game of the regular season. Let's first of all start with Brownsville Veterans. Preseason, the word on the street was, of all the Brownsville teams, the most athletes are sitting at Brownsville Veterans. They're going to have to buy into the new coach. They're going to have to buy into the program. If the athletes can all come together, they're going to be an elite, dangerous team, perhaps the best team out of Brownsville. Second, Los Fresnos, a sleeper in 32-6A, but a new coach, a new system. Athletes, players were there. Could they make the jump into let's totally change everything we're doing, change the mindset, buy into the coach? Could they get to where they needed to be? And then the third one was Ed Calchelsa. Now, Ed Calchelsa came in, same coach. It wasn't a coaching change. It wasn't a different system. But what it was an atmosphere in which the players, the coach, everyone around Ed Calchelsa knew that there was a distinct group that wanted to make a change, and it wanted to make a change in a big way even after their Mercedes games in the midseason. What happened? Kids bought into the coach. Coach continued with the right course, and now suddenly you got 3 programs that are all buying into what the coach is wanting them to do and being successful, and at the right time of the season. Let's start with either one of them, Kevin, but all 3 of those are storylines about if you believe in what your coach wants you to do throughout the season, these coaches prepare you to be ready for the postseason, and all 3 are ready.
Yeah, and 2 of the 3 are all run-oriented offense. You have the triple option, the nasty slot, and then you have the spread. And the irony is that David Cantu is at the centerpiece of all this.
Yes.
Because he's spent the last 7-8 years at BVM and implemented that spread. Los Fresnos, on the other hand, was in the spread, and in the last 2 years they went to the wishbone. So now they go back to the spread. BVM goes from the spread to the triple option, if you're following along.
It is,
but,
yeah.
But how much you have to learn to, is the impressive part, and how quickly they bought in. You're right. Because you don't just go from the spread to say, here's a triple option. Because some of these millennials might not even know what the triple option is.
Yes.
They didn't play NCAA enough. You know what I'm saying? They didn't play with Air Force enough back in the day, but just the job that they're doing is incredible. And I just bought in when Coach Kelly was here. I don't know if you were here that afternoon, but just the way he presented himself, and I really feel that it's that college presence that he brought to these kids. He sold that product, and it is. We had Coach Uresti here a couple weeks ago. He said, Kevin, this is the toughest district because not only do we have to play the McAllens, Weslaco East isn't even in the playoff picture right now as we're looking at it.
Which is unheard of.
Unheard of. So to do that already says a lot because we know how good Weslaco East is. But it's a 9-team district. It's a big district, and it's more of a sprint, or it's more of a marathon than a sprint, right? Los Fresnos, you and I had penciled them as a question mark, saying, okay, how quickly can they adjust back to the spread? can they get those athletes back in Los Fresnos and just kind of rekindle that spread offense? Because it's a one-horse town. They're going to have numbers. And Cantu's done a great job there on really just flipping the switch. And it feels like years ago when they lost, when they got waxed at home against San Benito. It feels like light years ago. I think their staple win is beating Harlingen in double OT like we were talking about, putting themselves in a position for the district title. I think if we said Los Fresnos and South for the district title, I want to bet money on that, they'd call me crazy.
Me too. Beginning of the season, there's no way I would have circled this game as the district title, and both of the teams involved have a chance to be that district champion.
Right.
No way in the world was any prognosticator going to put that out there preseason, and including us at the table here.
Yeah, and we knew South was going to be good. Did I think they'd be 9-0? Probably not. I was like, whoa, because you and I had the conversation a few weeks ago. I said, Joe, what is it going to take for them to be successful? Is it going to be a win in the Bird Bowl and a playoff loss and you can still call it a success, or vice versa? Or what's it going to be to call that season a success? I think right now, no matter how you slice it, I think the fans will call it a success.
Tremendous success. I think the game to circle, and Coastal Bend fans are going to kind of question this, was the win on the road at Alice. Alice has struggled in their district. I mean, no doubt about it. It's a tough district. Cal Allen, Miller, also in your district. But Alice has struggled. But what Alice is tradition, and Alice was the kind of team that normally handles an RGV team going up there early part of the season.
Right.
And the signature win was that it was a hostile environment. It was not the prettiest of games. It certainly wasn't a shootout, but it was a game that you win. And you take that long bus ride home and you get a win. A big difference.
Absolutely. And it was 14-7. It was 14-7. And I called you after. I said, these guys just drove the ball downfield. Izzy went back to that power run, says, okay, we're going to not go in the spread, or we're going to attack him with the run. And he told me before, he said, you'll see a little wrinkles tonight that we hadn't done just yet. But, yeah, that's a signature win. And I tell you what, to your point, Alice had Miller on the ropes. Late in the third quarter, they had him on the ropes, and I said, there you go. That's when you know South is for real. And I'm very like that, where I'm like, okay, if you're doing this against them, they did that against you, that says something, that's worth something. Albeit Alice wound up losing. But they had Miller on the ropes. But to your point, that was the first big signature win for South.
And it was the we believe.
Right.
We believe. Anytime a coach takes over a new system, there's two things they hone in on traditionally when I talk to coaches. The first thing is they pull the offensive playmakers aside, the skill positions, if you will. And they tell the skill positions, here's what's going to happen, here's how we're going to operate, here's the change in what you've been normally accustomed to playing when you're in this uniform. They then go to the line, and they say it's going to start here. Once you guys start understanding your assignments, then our playmakers are going to have some openings. The patience is on the playmakers. You tell them to be patient while the offensive line understands the true schemes of what you're doing. South went back to that ground and pound, got the win. It was the confidence maker that now suddenly, when we do start opening things up, now everybody trusts that line. And suddenly things start happening.
Absolutely. And then just to touch on Ed Couch, back to your original question, I saw them on the road at Mission Vets. They went right toe-to-toe with Mission Vets, and this is right when Mission Vets was going to start peaking at the right time. But, again, you talk about a run-oriented offense and a team that made the playoffs last year. They got a heck of a rushing attack. Did not know that old Jaime Infante is the OC.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing with that is that not only do they line up in the nasty slot or the flex bone, whatever you want to call it, but they can also line up in the spread. Very, very few teams that are run-oriented like that don't even dare. That's their offense. They don't even go into the spread. But having Infante there, I think, was that key ingredient to implement that spread for Ed Couch in case they need to go to it. They can. That makes them dangerous.
Yeah, it does. It means at any given time they could come out of a huddle and give your defense a look that they are totally unprepared for. Get a big play. Get a couple of big plays. That's all you really need. But, again, that Ed Couch Elsa team, again, you go back to what you were talking about with David Gilpin and his team. Ed Couch Elsa has got tradition, my friends, a ton of tradition, and everybody had written him off. Don't go giving a team with tradition the chip on their shoulder that it's us against the world, because usually it's the world against the team with the mark on their back, and for years it's been everybody against Ed Couch Elsa. Suddenly it's flipped. The Yellow Jackets are saying, nobody believes in us, we got nothing to lose, and just watch out. They can make a run.
Absolutely.
We'll take a break. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about the playoffs. and the ability for us to broadcast playoffs. There's a bunch of question marks on that every year at this time. 5 years, nothing's changed, and I'll run that down as well, and then we'll let Ruben and Kevin continue to break things down. We're at Luke Furia Motors in Brownsville, Texas. Stop by and see us while we're at the show, and make sure you stop by here, if nothing else, to tell them thank you for being a sponsor of our show here on Real Sports Live. We'll be back after this.
Uniforms, etc., you're going to find the opportunity to purchase the best high-quality scrubs. Soon after I learned about how the EDC was helping out the community, and so I did meet with Ms. Castillo. She made it very easy, very friendly, and she walked me every step of the way. I couldn't have done it without their help.
We are La Villa, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
Sherryland ISD, a nationally recognized district focusing on quality and rigorous instruction where every child is immersed in a culture of academic success. A district dedicated to preparing our youth for the future. Our mission is to inspire, educate, and empower all students to reach their full potential and become leaders of the highest moral character. Sherryland ISD, excellence is our tradition.
We are Edinburgh Villa, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
There is a feeling you get when you walk onto a campus.
A sense of love, compassion, and dedication.
An environment that inspires each of our HCISD family members
to do their best and to be their best.
We ground our education on strong character, and together, we will always persist towards the future.
We are a district of choice.
A district of innovation.
And a district of excellence.
We are HCISD.
We are Santa Rosa, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
Back here, Luke Furia Motors, Buick, GMC, Cadillac. You take your pick. You come on down, you get some great deals. They're one of our primary sponsors here on Real Sports Live. Jumped into the middle of football season, and we are more than proud to be here each week. Now, some weeks we do flip the switch, and we travel abroad. The reason why we're doing that, we're starting to incorporate more and more of that, is that the fact that our reach is thus that we have coaches that are not capable of making it to Brownsville to join us in the show. However, they do make a commitment to joining us in the show. So therefore, we think the likes of the Edinburghs, the places that open up the doors for us to do a show at their location, so that the coaches have time to get to us and then get back to doing whatever they're doing throughout the day. So again, our Luke Furia show is at Luke Furia today. Some days it may be elsewhere, but it doesn't mean Luke Furia isn't part of what we're doing here on Real Sports Live. Now, let's go into the playoff football. We're going to prognosticate all over the place. We're going to go up and down and talk about who might get where and who might play who. But the bottom line is, when we're broadcasting the games, and this is all fans, we should record this and put this out there on a special post. When we're broadcasting our games, the first thing I usually say during my broadcast is, this is free of charge. We do not charge schools to broadcast our games. We do not charge fans to broadcast or to watch the games. Therefore, what we're doing is fully funded by advertisers. In this case, we're at Luke Furia. They're one of our advertisers. South Padre Island, one of our advertisers. I could go down the list, but I might miss one, so I'm just going to tell you, the advertisers that you see during the broadcast are the ones that are funding what we're able to do. That's for regular season. When we get to playoffs, it's a whole nother world. The first thing we have to do, once we find out who's playing who in playoffs, and this is any sport, we have to submit a request to the entity that's in charge of the rights through UIL. UIL doesn't grant those rights. They've already granted the rights to a couple of other parties who are in complete control over who is granted rights to broadcast games. Once you get the approval from that, then you have to go back to the schools and get the approval from each school that it's okay to broadcast the game. That's part two. Once part two is completed, before you exit the building with your equipment to go to the venue to broadcast the playoff game, you have to pay the UIL's partners a fee in order to have the rights to broadcast the game. We have zero sponsors that are committed to broadcasting any playoff games for us at any sports. We have regular season sponsors, and for the 5th year in a row, I've been the one singing the song that we need some playoff sponsors to jump in and help us get to the next level when we reach the playoffs. We can get the games. No one else in the region is doing the games, and therefore when we request the rights, we're granted on 90% of the time. It's the funding. And so when you see us sitting at home and you're wondering why a game isn't being broadcast, it is 100% because we are still looking for those key advertising partners to step in and say, we want to take the playoffs on and help you continue to showcase the athletes. Now, the last part, as football begins, the football fees are, well, they're $1,000 a game, okay? And so that $1,000 is also restrictive in that, let's say Luke Fruya Motors wanted to sponsor, they won't let you do it. UIL has restrictions as to what type of advertisers you can use during football. So even if we do have some big sponsors that are available, we have to be cautious at who the partners are on a given year for UIL that restricts us even further. So fans, we have a couple of options. We can sit back as we did last night for volleyball and only do 3 games. We could have done 15, 20. Could have been easily all around the region from Victoria to Laredo to here in the Rio Grande Valley doing playoff games for volleyball. We didn't have the funding from playoff advertising. So we limited ourselves to the number of games. For football, we have the option of either going for the gold of the big broadcast of the video football game, or we have an option of sitting at home, or we can present an audio version of the broadcast. Audio takes me back to my radio days, 30 years plus before I ever sat on a television set, and so I know what radio is all about. I know it's an audience that can grasp the sport. I know it's also something that in the past we've had fans complain about when we're broadcasting games. It is a way for us to cover the game. It is a way for you to listen to it live, and it's an option that we're exercising. So there's a whole lot of stuff that goes into play about the playoffs, but just understand, from the guy that started this, if it were me, we would be broadcasting every game available every day in every place. If I get the funding, I'm going to continue to bring people on, and we're going to continue to expand. But until then, we have to be within the restraints of what's going on with the UIL. Thus ends the commercial. Kevin, let's go to the playoffs and let's talk about it.
Yeah, let's talk about the playoffs. Boy, we're already in the third day of November, and that means playoff football. So looking ahead to what we do know and some projected and what we're looking at, I think right off the bat, talking about Harlingen South and a team I'm going to see tomorrow is PSG North. South will be the D1 on the 32-6A. PSG North will be the 2C D2. So that's a matchup right there. Plenty of storylines with that PSG North Harlingen South. You got Isaac Gonzalez, who's a career 3,000-yard rusher, ran for 1,000 yards last year, led the Valley. Jack Lugo. I mean, the list goes on and on with these kids in PSG North. The cliche, there's unfinished business, right? But PSG North last year, they went on the road at Sam's, beat Hannah, came back in the second half, had their game against Taft forfeited because of COVID. There was an outbreak on the team, and that's how PSG North's season ended last year. So you talk about a team that's motivated and ready to stick it to the man. It's Coach Marcus Kaufman at PSG North, and they're a lot of fun to watch. They just present themselves with so much swagger in that district, finishing behind Vela, albeit. But that's a matchup that's going to stick out to me. Then we were talking before we went on that we're going to juggle this on, okay, do you become a fan of him? He becomes a fan of you. Do you want them to win? Because you're looking at potentially Harlingen-Vela rematch in the first round. And, of course, San Benito and Weslaco are playing each other this week. And if Weslaco wins, they'll be in. San Benito can be out. Then
you're talking about another playoff game that isn't a playoff game. That Weslaco San Benito game is literally win and you're in. Lose, season over.
Right.
And I didn't expect that.
Nope.
For San Benito, certainly I didn't expect that. But that's what it is. That's at Bobby Lackey Stadium on Friday. And so, Weslaco fans, they'll be there in force for San Benito. San Benito will bring a crowd as well. That'll be a great atmosphere. It will be a playoff atmosphere. In essence, it is a playoff game. And if Westaco wins, you're right, it juggles where Harlingen goes.
Right.
If Westaco loses, Harlingen then is dead set against Edinburgh Vela in Week 1. That's a rematch of the Week 2 game earlier this season, and we all went into that one with perhaps high hopes that it would be a complete shootout. One team forgot to up the ante because Vela brought the shootout. Harlingen couldn't match it. Not sure they can even right now, but in this case, root for Westaco, you won't see Vela if you're a Harlingen Cardinal fan.
Yeah, I think Harlingen people were going to root for Westaco anyway. I don't think they'd
Yeah.
ever root for San Benito.
No love for San Benito
Harlingen
there, ever.
people, that is. But then on the flip side, you look at the bottom half of that district. Mission's going to play PSJ North tomorrow. Mission's a lock there, and then that's where the conundrum begins when you have Edinburgh North, Edinburgh High. That's where it gets tricky, because if Edinburgh North loses, Edinburgh High wins, Los Gatos are in the playoffs.
Yes.
And it's like, wow, and it's going to be a lot of fun if Edinburgh North wins. They're in control of their own destiny.
Right, so yeah, we could go up and down the line, and there are some teams that have locked in playoff spots, and it won't change regardless of the outcome of this Friday games. Now, I could sit here and discuss it with Kevin back and forth the entire time, but all of these notes right here that I could start looking at are Ruben's, so I'm going to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to let him go over his notes. He's done a lot of work to get ready for this, one of our better announcers to come along over the last 2 years, and I'll let Ruben and Kevin break it down. I've been the guest, like I said, and I'll let these guys take it from here.
Josh Moody and Coach Rolly Gonzalez of Josh Moody Loans are former Harlingen Cardinals and would like to wish all the teams good luck in tonight's games.
We're the Red Texans, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
Service is attitude. How far are we willing to go to service our community, our dealership here for you, and you? Sky's the limit.
Plan your escape. Beach, bay, or both. Sunrises and sunsets daily. Memories made all day. Live music and great food round out your visit. So why wait? SoPadre.com.
We're the Harlingen South Lady Hawks, and you're watching Real Sports Live. Awesome!
I love what I do. I really
love what
do.
I'm doing. I love children. One of the most important things to do is to love your students.
Imagine teachers like these helping your child prepare to change the world. Take a closer look at Mission CISD.
And he throws it down.
Welcome back, as we're going to wrap up our show, and we're going to talk about the 5As. We already dissected the 6As here in the RGV. So down in 16 5A, Division 1, go ahead and start with that and where we're at heading into the final week.
So what, as the playoffs stand in 16-5 Division 1, as I said, we already dissected the 6As. McCall Memorial starts it off here, 81 on the season, 80-0 in district play. Coach Patterson just continuing to work that Memorial offense, just tearing their way through 65 Division 1. Matt Kai, Coach Shelby's Bulldogs here, 8-1 overall, 7-1 in district play. Their only loss coming to McCall Memorial. Bronzeville Veterans in third place, the sleeper team no one thought would win, but Coach Kelly's offense just steamrolling in the three spot, 6-3 overall, 6-2 in district play. Nicky Rowe getting a big win against Westaco East on Friday. Wins it 6-3 overall, 6-2 in district play. Now Westaco East in the hunt, the number 5 seed, 5-3 overall, 5-3. Now if you're Westaco East, you're going to be rooting for Pace taking on Vets. You're going to be rooting for whoever Rose taking on Friday. So it's just a matter of who gets in, and if Memorial, Matt Kai, and Vets can just stay consistent and win these next few games, you can see those 4 teams.
There's one game left.
Yeah.
So just win one more.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just win one more. That's it.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Just excited. Sorry. And in 16-5A Division 2, we got the 3-way tie there. Trico District Champs. Mercedes 8-1 overall, 6-1 in district play. Mission Vets 6-3 overall, 6-1 in district play. Sherryland 7-2 overall, 6-1 in district play. Last week we were saying Pioneer was in 4th. Edinburgh and now Ed Calchelsa in the mix now. 5-5 overall, 5-3, number 4 in the 4 seed. And then you got Sherryland Pioneer still in the hunt here. 5-4 overall, 4-3 in district play. So Kevin, your thoughts on D2?
Well, first off, they're playing Greta Van Fleet in the back, and probably nobody here knows who Greta Van Fleet is. You actually know who Greta Van Fleet is?
Yeah, I have a friend who listens to it. So whenever we would, when I was on our job, we would go get lunch. He was always blasting
Where are
it.
they
So
from?
I don't know where they're from. I just know who I've heard
They're
of
from
them.
Frankenmuth, Michigan. Shout out to Frankenmuth. Wow, I'm surprised. They play Greta Van Fleet. They sound a lot like Led Zeppelin. Anyways, that just caught my attention. I'm like, yeah, a little Michigan blood there. The 16-5 AD2, like we said earlier, Mission Vets is the most, in my opinion, the most dangerous team coming out of that district. Then you have Mercedes, Cherryland, and then Ed Couch. Pioneer on the outside looking in, credit to them, an extremely young team, obviously coming off of last year's four deep run. Losing Eddie Lee and everyone else. 2 guys back, literally 2 guys coming back on that team. So Coach Galindo had his work cut out for him, but just to have his team relevant and in the playoff mix is a success in its own. It's going to be tough for them to get in, but it's not impossible, right? Then on the flip side, we talked about BBM and what they did, and Nicky Rowe, of course, that they're 6-2. Coach Flores, he's done a good job there. Coach Tarantola offensively, always implementing that spread, and Mac High with Coach Shelby has his breakthrough year. He has a tremendous track record as an OC in his few years at Weslaco, and then of course he did wonders over at Edinburgh Bella in the early days of the SaberCats. And then Coach Moses Patterson, shout out to him on keeping that district title streak going with McAllen Memorial, because with Coach Littleton retiring, there's no Spates in the backfield for the first time in 8 years, and who's going to run the football and what are they going to do? But coming into the season, they had the most returners coming back in that district. So, a shout out to McAllen Memorial and staying as the top dog in that district. It's going to be a lot of fun, and then in 4A, we mentioned, you have Port Isabel sitting as the 4th seed, and the LaFeria Lions, they've won another district title. Again, how could I even begin to forget about my guy Oscar Salinas, a fellow Edinburgh guy? Shout out to him and what they're doing, and Aaron Trevino, the real deal. And we talk about Mission always just finding a way to breed quarterbacks. There's something in the Gatorade over there, but there's something in the Kool-Aid over here in La Feria, that maroon tea that they like to drink. I don't know what it is, but quarterbacks, they're pretty darn good when they come out of La Feria over these last few years. And Aaron Trevino, I was talking to his dad, Orion, the other day, and just the stats that Aaron's putting up, they're a lot like Dorian Hernandez from the last few years, Brandon Leja years past, even Dario, last year as plug in and play as a senior last year. But just what La Feria is doing, and they had that early loss to Beeville Jones on the road. They flipped a switch. They played Hidalgo. And what's a rivalry game, they played them in La Feria, and La Feria wound up winning and bringing home another district title. And the Lions are going to be good. You talk about a team that's going to be scary, that's going to be dangerous, that can do it, that's been there, done that. It's La Feria. Just a couple years ago, 2-3 years ago, they were on the brink of beating Lavernia over at Buck a few years ago in a game that Joe and I covered. So this is a team that has plenty of experience on that coaching staff. They're very young on the field, but they're ahead of schedule. Because like Coach Salinas said, and he'll be the first to tell you, if you're going to get us, this is the year to get us, because we're going to be back in these next couple of years, and we're going to see it come all full circle again, where we're going to see some pretty dangerous La Feria Lions teams. With that being said, Lyford also is locked in as the 3 seed, Coach Hadagi. It's actually his birthday. Happy birthday to Coach Jerry Hadagi, and congratulations to your Braves. They won the World Series. But happy birthday to Coach Hadagi. We had him on as a guest here a couple weeks ago. Lyford's locked in as a 3rd seed. They're playoff bound, so shout out to Coach Hadagi on making the playoffs. What we have tomorrow, it'll be PSG North and Mission at Hidalgo, Donna North at Rivera, down at Sam's, Roma taking on Sherryland, that game over at Richard Thompson. Then down up on rolling into Friday, Mercedes at Pioneer, Harlingen South at Los Fresnos, Brownsville Hannah at Harlingen, La Jolla at Economides, John Paul II at St. Joe, Brownsville Veterans taking on Brownsville Pace. That's Friday at Sam's. And then Saturday, the regular season finale, La Jolla Palmview taking on Brownsville Lopez. That game also going on at Sam's. So outside of the Harlingen South, Los Fresnos game, JP2 at SJA, those are the 2 big games that we have on our schedule and that we're really looking forward to. Other than that, you have tomorrow night, you're going to be at Sam's. That's going to be Rivera and Donna North. The regular season finale, those 2 teams in a rebuilding year. Donna North did snap that losing streak earlier this year. That was good for them and Coach Cuevas. Beto Leal, and they're looking to finish the season off on a winning note. So just briefly, what are you looking forward to? Not any playoff implications, but you can call these games building blocks. going into the offseason.
Yeah, like I said, but Rivera's going to lose some key players. They are going to lose Ramsey Rocha and a few others here. But they got Devin Parker returning. Ray is returning here. And just what Beto Leal has done this season to try to stay intact, just building blocks, like you said. Next year, if they can get the groove back going, I feel like they'll be a contender in 32-6A going into next season. And Donna North here still looking in the rebuilding phase. Getting that big win, snapping the losing streak was a big stepping place in the right direction. But I feel like if they can just make some major adjustments, I feel like they can be a contender and a sleeper team to look out for in the coming years.
All right, well, that just about wraps up our show. And again, like Joe reminded everyone that was watching, just to keep in mind of the playoff fees, and it's know that we don't want to be there. And yes, we can be there. We have the ability to do it. There's just a lot of X's and O's that need to be, crossing the T's, dotting the I's. A lot of things that go on behind the scenes that the fans might not know. And the advertisement is a huge capital KEY exclamation point key in what we do and why we play these ads. That way it can keep it a free service for you, the fans. So hopefully you've enjoyed the first, 9 weeks of the football season, because we have had a ton of football for the fans to enjoy Thursday, Friday, Saturday. And we're looking forward to the final week of the regular season. A lot to be decided. You will be down at Sam's tomorrow, Friday, and Saturday. We're going to have a guest on? Yeah. Oh, so we're not done yet. We're going to have one more treat for you. We're going to have a guest on from Luke Faria. So we're actually going to step aside, take a break. We're going to have our guest, and then we'll wrap it up and bring it home. So you're watching Real Sports Live.
Here at Texas A&M University, Kingsville, we are a family. We support each other through thick and thin. We work together, grow together, excel together. We inspire each other to become the great minds of the future. We are here to ensure you succeed. Apply today to get started. This is your time.
We are the Harlingen Lady Cardinals, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
Plan your escape. Beach, bay, or both. Sunrises and sunsets daily. Memories made all day. Live music and great food round out your visit. So why wait? SoPadre.com.
We're the Lady Cougars, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
And look for your motors, we're moving forward. Same great service, same great people, same great cars and trucks, and these great white letters. Our vision is crystal clear. Look for your motors. We're on the move.
And he throws it down. Hey! See you later, touchdown.
The Brownsville Independent School District.
Back here at Luke Faria Motors, joined here by Rudy, who was on the phone making some deals because we're at Luke Faria Motors, Buick, GMC, Cadillac, and first things first, I got to ask, what's going on down here?
Well, it's really nice you asked that. Thanks. Well, thank you for bringing me back on y'all's live show. So we got a bunch of new inventory coming in. 2022 Buicks should be arriving daily within the next 2 or 3 weeks. Should be seeing a few more shipments coming in. We're still receiving some 22 Sierras, limited edition. And don't forget, open orders for the 2022 redesign on the interior, some exterior 22 Sierra. So also come and place your orders for the Yukons. We also got our beautiful side of a Cadillac behind me. We've got the ESVs, Escalades, CT4s arriving, CT5s arriving. So we should be getting a bunch of inventory, guys.
Yeah.
Come and see us.
I know last week you had the unveiling. It was a special unveiling of the new features. How'd that go? And anything special that popped out that was like wow situation?
It was really neat. I'm going to tell y'all, I got wowed by the interior of the, finally, they gave us something really exciting to be looking on the Sierra side. That interior is amazing. I was out fishing and my phone was getting blown up and I'm like, dude, I'm trying to fish, man. And all of a sudden I started seeing people putting in their orders or sending me their confirmation numbers. I said, the benefit of that, they're in that list, they're on that line. They don't have to sit and wait. They're going to be one of the first. And I wish I could say I want to be one, but I got to let the customers do it first. So.
Yeah, but it was a neat unveiling. It was the first time they did that, where they did everything online to show what the new features were, and that was last week, right?
So this is actually the second time. The first one, they featured it with the Hummer EV coming.
Oh, okay.
That thing was amazing. I've got a list from here to McAllen, so I'm excited about that too. But thank you all for supporting us, our dealership, Real Sports. You know, we really appreciate what y'all do and supporting us as well.
Trying to get out there to all the games. Speaking of games, a PI graduate, so I have to start with the Tarpons. Looks like they're going to be a 4 seed. If I looked at it right, they're going to be taking on possibly an Odom. We're going to confirm that here in just a bit, but nonetheless, a 4 seed. But we did talk about it during the start of this show.
Yes, sir.
Tony Villarreal is the kind of
The
coach
man.
that can get you ready for
The
playoff
man.
football, maybe perhaps even as a 4 seed to knock off some people.
Well, Joe, like you're saying, and everybody knows, if you love the game, I don't care who you're playing. I don't care if it's 1-16 or 4-1 or 1-4. Every dog has their day, and both teams are going to show up to play. So if you show up with your A game, guess what? You got a chance, and you're going to have a chance because you showed up to play. And then being led by Tony V, come on, man.
I know you've seen this Tarpon team in person. At times, they can be scary good. So, again, every coach looks at, well, when can we put 4 quarters together when we play like this? At their highest level, does a 1 seed, can they be bumped off?
Well, look, again, like I said, what about that 1 seed? They could have an off day too.
Exactly.
So that 4 seed could come in and say, you know what? Take advantage of any little thing they're going to give you. And Coach knows that. He knows that. The defense, they've got a good enough defense to make the stops. They just have to put it together now. And you know what? I think they're going to be fine. Being led by Coach V, they're going to be fine.
What I always say is that playoff football is unlike any other because every other week, you know you're getting ready to play next week. Not this time.
No, sir.
And when that mindset changes, it does some things that create some playoff magic. You've been there before.
Yes, sir.
As the favorite. You've been there before as we need to knock off somebody that we're supposed to lose to. But playoffs is there's no tomorrow if you don't win.
Amen.
Different mindset.
Amen to that. So all I can say is, again, PI, good luck. Actually, all Valley teams, good luck, man. And good luck to all the kids in, their up-and-coming sports. The basketball season coming up. The volleyball. Hey, congrats, vets. Y'all did a great job, girls. Keep it up. Next year's another year. We'll try it again, man.
We're going to have broadcast of volleyball games on the playoff side, football games, and basketball this week. And we're really ramping up. There's some tournaments next week on the basketball side of things, as it's darn near our most busiest season. It's really not, because that happens when we have soccer going on, with basketball, with baseball, with softball. But it's close. We're going to be plenty busy.
Well, again, I want to say thanks to everybody who's been watching the show, and Real Sports, and thank you all for enrolling yourselves for that 2022 GMC Sierra. Don't forget, we also got Cadillac, man. Cadillac is the innovative, one of a kind SUV. They offer the elite, the top of the top. The Escalade is the top of the top. Come visit us. Give us a shot.
Look for your motors. Buick, GMC, Cadillac. That's Rudy. I'm Joe. We'll take our final break and we'll come back.
Thank you.
After this.
For enriching education. From pre-K3 to early college high school, the award-winning district has advanced its legacy in curriculum, athletics, and fine arts. Teachers are driving the frontier of technology, bringing industry to the classroom. On and off the field, Brownsville ISD students engage in the experiences that make them college and career ready. Brownsville Independent School District, the best choice.
Forever Memories, Antiques and Collectibles, located at 237 North Sam Houston in San Benito, is filled with vintage items, collectibles, and a selection of vinyl records that's as good as it gets. Every shelf, every aisle, and table is filled daily by a number of vendors that ensures that something here just might be the item you have to have. The vinyl record area helps bring an added atmosphere that makes for the fun trip when stepping back in time with the memories. Forever Memories, Antiques and Collectibles in San Benito.
We're the Life for Cheerleaders, and you're watching Real Sports Live.
Back here on Real Sports Live as we wrap things up at Luke Furia Motors. I want to thank again everyone that was part of this show. Kevin, Ruben doing a terrific job in preparation. Rudy behind the scenes making sure that everything works on the technical side. And then, of course, our guest with Rudy. Luke Furia Motors, one of our primary sponsors here on Real Sports Live. Again, whether we're here, whether we're on location somewhere else to accommodate other coaches, we're here for you, and we're going to be bringing you as much insight, background, and recaps of whatever games we maybe have done or are going to be doing in the near future. Again, it's going to be a busy week. Kevin did a good job of wrapping it all up, so I'm not going to recap that for you. Just understand, basketball, volleyball playoffs, football, broadcasts, all coming your way between now and next Wednesday. Who wins? Who's in? We'll talk about that next week. Till then, so long.
I've got my plan. I say lob it to Ryan Perez in the paint off a couple of screens. Esquivel to Garcia. Off the deflection was Fresno's comeback.